Thank you, Whittaker. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Columbus, an inclusive spiritual community of people supporting each other in their search for truth and meaning. I'm Rick Spradlin, your service leader. I'll also be your speaker today, and later on, I'll presenting the need for Easter in times of crisis. We'll also be hearing a reading from one of our long-distance members, Danielle Neale, plus more music from Whittaker. And we want to say welcome to the Grosses. I understand they're joining us by Zoom today. Our board president, Hal Majette, has a few words for us this morning. Hal?
Thank you, Rick. Can you all hear? Hey, it's been 6 months, and it's so good to see you all come here. I think a lot of us feel the stress of not being around people. I'd like to thank everybody who has been involved in making this work. I mean, we've got David Rush, we've got Bill, we have Ron, we have Elise, there's Connie, Michelle, and Brenda. This is a clock with a lot of cogs. And of course, Whittaker, without the music, there's no life. And so, I mean, it's easy to forget people as you go on, but it's been a huge effort to get this together. A lot of people wouldn't realize we did this yesterday just to make sure it works. And hopefully next week we can do it out in the meditation garden. There's discussion about that. So it's so good to see you all here and on Zoom. And I'd like to say about Zoom, this will be put into a YouTube. And so if you do not want your face recorded for the YouTube, please put the the stop video button, and that will work, I've been told. Okay, so with that, again, thanks for everything. And I didn't mention you, Rick, because Rick was here yesterday too, practicing. So it's been a real effort, and it's wonderful to see everybody. So thank you.
We also have the following announcements this morning. Winn-Dixie in Columbus is continuing to accept appointments for COVID vaccinations online only. You can't make an appointment in person or by phone. You can register at www.win/dixie.com/COVID-vaccine. We're continuing to collect for the Homeless Resource Network and collecting for Pasamigos and Feeding the Valley. We have collection boxes at the front door of the fellowship. Next week's program will be presented by Ron Usry, titled Darwin's Bulldog and the Science Revolution. We invite you to come and join us next week in person for another outdoor service, or you can join us by Zoom. If the weather is bad next week, we'll be having our service by Zoom only. That call will be made on Saturday afternoon. The service next week, like today, has been moved to 10:30 a.m. Columbus Shred Day will be April 17th at Columbus Tech from 8:30 until 11. This is a service sponsored by the Better Business Bureau to shed your sensitive documents. The limit is 3 bags per car, no metal objects, no 3-ring binders, please. Place your bags in your trunk and the attendant will retrieve them. Columbus Tech is located at 928 Manchester Expressway. Okay. We begin our service by lighting the chalice, which symbolizes reason, tolerance, and freedom, and also compassion, justice, and love. Our chalice lighting reading this morning comes to us from Jennifer McLaughlin. As the first hint of green begins to peek through the barren ground, as that little sprig grows into a healthy stem, as that stem grows into a stalk that forms a bud, as that bud slowly opens with each new day to form a yellow daffodil, let us be like that first hint of green, renewed by the warmth of the sun's rays and ready to emerge with a new energy, ready to face the day. We light this chalice to bring a glimmer of that warmth into our space. And now let us once again affirm the 7 principles which sum up the core values that Unitarian Universalist congregations support and promote. Number 1, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Number 2, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. 3, the acceptance of one another and the encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. Number 4, the free and responsible search for truth and meaning. 5, the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process in our congregations and in society at large. Number 6, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. And 7, respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. All right, thank you. And now for our celebration of life toast. Unique to this fellowship, our toast carries no doctrinal symbolism. It's not a sacrament. It's simply a warm tradition, and we invite you now to share it. We normally do this with drinks, but because of COVID, we'll be toasting in spirit. I'll read the toast, and we'll join in on the last line. We celebrate life. We celebrate life with its beauty and its pain. We lift these cups in tribute to the achievements of human minds and hands, and in sensitivity to the frustrations of misfortune and heartache. Not fixing blame or credit for the outcome of chance, sensing the risk, savoring the joy, sharing it all, knowing of the certainty of death, and remembering the value of each moment. We drink our toast of celebration to this time, to the future, to each other, to the throbbing of the earth and sea and sky with life. Together, we drink this toast in celebration of life. This morning's offering will now be given and received in the spirit of grateful fellowship. If you're watching us on Zoom, you can mail offerings to UUFC at Box 698, Fortson, Georgia, 31808. Or you can use PayPal. Now, if you use PayPal, you're going to hit send money and put as the recipient our email address, uufcga@gmail.com. While you're doing that, Whittaker will play for us Lovely is the Tree by George Butterworth.
Good morning. This offertory this morning, Loveliest of Trees, There's a hymn with the exact lyrics in our hymn book, but this particular arrangement is in the form of an art song, and I felt compelled to share it with you all this morning. Loveliest of trees, the cherry now is hung with blooms along the bough, and stands about the woodland ride, wearing white for Easter Now of my 80 years and 20 will not come again, and take from 70 springs a score. It only leaves me 50 more. And since to look at things in bloom, 50 springs is little room. About the woodlands I will go to see the cherry hung with snow.
And now a reading from one of our members, Danielle Neale, coming to us from Pennsylvania. Danielle?
Thank you for joining me today. Happy Easter, happy Ostera, and just happy Sunday. I would like to share with you a reading called Blessing of the Easter Baskets by Lucas Hergert. Let us imagine for a moment that our lives are like the baskets that our children will use after the service to collect colorful eggs and candy. And as we welcome that imaginative connection, let us pause for a moment to accept a blessing. May the things that you collect in your basket, like painted eggs and colorful flowers and Easter grass, bring to you a new appreciation of beauty. May the things that you collect in your basket, like chocolates and jelly beans, bring your life sweetness. May your basket always be full enough that you are able to share your bounty with others, especially those whose baskets do not contain as much. May your basket be large enough to accept the occasional disappointment of an empty Easter egg, or perhaps a sticker instead of a Hershey kiss. May your life, like the egg before it is opened or the ribbon before it is untied, offer up new surprises that bring joy. And finally, may your life, like the reeds of the basket, be interwoven with others, partaking in a community to celebrate all that is good. In the spirit of the little things that offer to us cherished meanings, may our lives indeed be blessed. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
From the beginning of time, our universe has played out a series of cycles. From the life cycle of a star to the birth and death of a galaxy, to the rotation of the Earth giving us day and night, to the orbit that gives us the seasons. As we observe the web of existence all around us, two conditions are inescapable. First, everything changes. And second, everything stays the same. As the cycles turn, they also repeat. Sometimes the cycles repeat over and over without interruption. And other times, nature appears to be thrown out of balance, like the year 1816. The year 1816 is known as the year without summer. On April 5th, 1815, Mount Tabora, a volcano in Indonesia, started to rumble with activity. Over the next 4 months, the volcano continued to explode. It was the largest volcanic explosion in at least 1,300 years. Mount Tabora ejected so much ash and chemicals into the atmosphere that the sky darkened and the sun was blocked from view. There are reports of several feet of ash floating on the ocean surface in the region. Ships had to plow through it to get from place to place. It was an agricultural disaster. Worldwide temperatures dropped. It had disastrous effect on most of New England, Atlantic Canada, and parts of Western Europe. It caused a massive famine in China. The monsoon season was disrupted, causing flooding in India. But eventually, this break in the normal cycle was corrected. Because the source of the disruption was temporary, the cycle was allowed to return to normal. Now, I'm sure there were many at that time who were in despair, just as I'm sure there were others who hoped for the return to normalcy. If we define despair as the absolute conviction that the end has come, then those who recognize the cycles of life with the big picture in mind can never be in despair, for they know that the night is always followed by the dawn. The flu pandemic of 1918 infected over 500 million people and claimed the lives of 130 million worldwide, all within 2 years. Governments back then had to deal with slackers, the name they gave for people who refused to wear masks in public. In time, that crisis also passed, just as the one we are in now will one day subside. It is during these times of crisis that one of the key themes of Easter becomes so important for our survival, namely that of hope. Hope and the faith that the light will overcome the dark. Faith that life can overcome death. As far back as the first religions, the spring equinox has meant the celebration of the renewal of life. As the days get longer and the sun grows stronger, the spirit of hope also emerges. Hope is like a child that is eager to be born. Sometimes what we think is despair is instead only the hunger pains of hope. Hope wants to be fed. Hope needs to be fed. Hope demands to be fed. Joy and suffering walk hand in hand like two orphan children clinging to each other, trying to find their way. And it is in these times, these darkest times, that we sometimes form the closest of bonds. It should come as no surprise that hard times bring out the best in some of us. It's the light that refuses to be kept trapped, like a seedling that reaches up towards the warm spring ground, yearning to find its way to the light. So does the light within us find its way to the surface when we need it the most. There's an old saying, adversity does not build character, it reveals it. This time of year, this Easter season means many things to many different religions around the world, and I mean no disrespect to any of them. But when we step back and view it all from the vantage point of history, we see the bigger picture. When we take all of these views into account, we see that Easter has two overarching themes. In the past, Easter only meant rebirth, but today we also include the Christian theme of Christ's sacrifice, which of course also celebrates the conquest of life over death, of salvation over damnation, of light over darkness, and hope over despair. Easter means both the renewal of life and the sacrifices made to continue life. As Unitarian Universalists, we can view this time of year as the renewal of life as we see the world bursting forth in green grass and new leaves. But we are also called to recognize the sacrifice made by others this past year and in years gone by. We take this time to say thank you to the first responders who put their lives at risk battling the COVID-19 virus. We take this time to honor those teachers who in recent years gave their lives to shield their students from crazed gunmen. We take this time to remember Denny Stong, the youngest victim of the Boulder shooting, who died trying to save a friend. Let us take notice of Dr. Claire Resba, an anesthesiologist in Virginia, who spent the past year running a Twitter feed that memorialized American healthcare workers who had died of COVID-19. Before stopping, in order to spend more time with her family, she had published more than 2,500 tributes to the doctors, emergency room nurses, respiratory therapists, and mental health counselors who were cut down in their prime. Let us remember the U.S. men and women in our armed forces who gave their lives for our country. Let us remember Nigerian-born Godwin Ayala, who worked as an access control officer at the World Trade Center. His role required him to ride the elevators at the two towers to secure the building and provide assistance for small emergencies. When the planes hit the World Trade Center on 9/11, 33-year-old Ayala selfishly helped thousands of people to evacuate the towers. He reportedly held the door open for people as they fled the building, and he guided others out of the tower to safety. He later collapsed due to exhaustion and fell into a coma. He died the next Sunday. So why do we need Easter? Most Unitarian Universalists don't believe in literal resurrection. We're welcome to. We certainly don't prohibit it. But most of us are more about spiritual resurrection, because that is exactly why we need Easter. We need Easter because of the cycles of hardship and joy. We need Easter because of the spiritual resurrection that comes with it. Easter doesn't belong to just one faith tradition. The very name Easter comes from the old Anglo-Saxon Istra or Ustra, a Germanic goddess of the dawn and fertility, whose symbol was a rabbit. Regardless of our faith, the hope of Easter lives in our DNA, just waiting for dark times to reappear. For without the dark, there can be no light. no dawn of awakening. And so on this lovely Easter morning, I wish you a very happy Easter. Thank you for listening. And now, before we extinguish the chalice, please remember to stay safe, look out for each other, and treat the stranger as you would yourself. We extinguish the chalice here that it might glow gently in our hearts as we leave this place. After our closing words, Whittaker will close us out with hymn 275, Joyful is the Dark. And now, with unity of spirit, we go our ways in universal fellowship until we meet again. So long.